All right, today, so we're taking a look at what makes Joe Rogan so popular, and much like my new Podcast 911 videos, I will be focusing on the first 10 minutes, and we're going to break down exactly what's happening on the show, what's good about the show, and perhaps some things you can adapt into your own content. First, though, if you missed my first review of a listener's podcast, you can find it up here. This is a new series I'm calling Podcast 911, so check it out if you're curious about upping your podcasting game. But for now, let's get into the Joe Rogan experience. And before anyone wants to get upset with the fact that I'm using Joe Rogan, well, love him or hate him, his impact on the world of podcasting cannot be undersold. And with that, let's just go with his most recent episode, which I do find interesting. It's an interview of a relatively unknown person, which is perfect. I mean, you can scroll down and find familiarity with like Johnny Knoxville or Ben and Matt, but seeing someone like Joe Rogan tackle someone who is a relatively unknown is kind of cool. So that's a great episode to start with. Let's just hit play.
Joe Rogan Podcast, check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan Podcast by night, all day.
How are you, sir?
Fine, thank you.
Thank you very much for being here.
Wow, that was quick. Okay, there's your benchmark if you are a podcaster and want an intro. Now, I know a lot of the old guard podcasters love their 30-second to 1-minute intros, but honestly, they're dying off. So be careful with stuff like that. Guys like Joe have a ton of people at Spotify that are giving them retention feedback, and I bet it's one of the things that they watch closely. So do as Joe does with stuff like that, because they usually have numbers you don't. Anyways, let's see how good his hook is. I'm actually quite curious.
Really excited to talk to you. Obviously, there's been an amazing amount of interest and controversy because of your work. We should explain to everybody right off the bat what this is about. You are the man that was at the head of this research that is looking at structures that are underneath the bottom of the pyramid. Ooh. And incredibly controversial, very fascinating, and if it's accurate, it essentially rewrites all of human history.
Wow. Okay, so we're going to stop it there. Extremely quick introduction. Love it. There's a bit of praise and then a hook that is going to guarantee you to keep curious as to whatever he's talking about. That's a 10 out of a 10 hook. And I can almost guarantee it was written beforehand, considering the absolute precision of it going right to the heart. Let's see who this guy is, though. I don't know if I've ever heard of him.
Thank you for this invitation. And yes, the group is composed by Corrado Malanga, which is the head of the group, and the dean professor of chemistry at the University of Pisa.
Could you explain your background, please, so people...
Yes.
Oh, okay. Now that's a master host move right there. He saw his guest was about to start going on about things that aren't really relative to who he was, so Joe recenters him with what some might consider to be a bit of a rude question, or at least a rude butt-in. But the best hosts do this. Interrupt him and put him back on track. Like, who are you? Anyways, let's keep going.
People would understand? Yeah.
Yes, my background is this. I am a telecommunication engineering. I graduate at the university.
What is that word again? Say it again.
Telecommunication engineering.
Telecommunications
Yes.
engineer. Okay. It's
Yes.
like your English is excellent, but the Italian accent, although fabulous, sometimes it's difficult to translate.
Thank you very much, Joe.
I like the slight jab there, telling him to be a little more clear with his words. Also kind of a bit of a power move, but at the same time, it is necessary when you're doing a multi-million-dollar podcast that your listeners know what he's saying, because not everyone's watching video with subtitles. A lot of people are listening in their car, and that's actually something you really have to consider when you're just doing the audio portion of it.
I'm sorry, yes, that I'm not mother tongue of English.
It's still much better than my Italian.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I graduated myself in university at the University of Lecce, south of Italy. Very nice university, and it has the name of a famous mathematic Italian, which is Ennio De Giorgi. Ennio De Giorgi was living in the era than John Nash. was leaving also, and they were one against to the other, and they was both studying the 19 Hilbert problem, and Ennio De Giorgi solved this problem 1 week before John Nash.
Ah, interesting. John
Yeah.
Nash, who from the famous movie A
Yes.
Brilliant Mind with
Yes.
Russell Crowe.
Okay, so 334, and something interesting happened here. The guest was going on about his university and who the university was named after, saying it was around the time of John Nash, a famous mathematician portrayed by Russell Crowe in A Beautiful Mind.
John Nash was one of the most brilliant minds of his generation.
The problem with this, though, is most listeners who aren't into math history and the such are probably lost at sea right now. Joe just dropped you a life raft with that line, though, giving you context about what the hell this guy was talking about. And this comes down to prep. Do you think Rogan knew who Ennio De Giorgi was last week? He probably knew who John Nash was, but Hilbert's 19th problem? I don't know, but I'm assuming he either did his research and was anticipating this was going to come up, or he was briefed by one of his researchers. This wasn't just a random blurb to come out of his mouth. But this also shows that you can look very intelligent just by reading up on what you're about to talk about. It's amazing how that works. But for us plebs that aren't into math history, we do appreciate this kind of work that's being put in by Joe.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so then I performed my PhD at La Sapienza in Rome, and now I'm here.
And how did you get involved in this discovery?
Yes, I worked on radar and synthetic aperture radar for a lot of time. Radar
For the Italian military, right?
Yes,
Some work,
Yes, some
which you
work
can't
for
really talk about.
Oh, okay. Rogan's using his influence here to get away with being a bit rude. So when Filippo's team briefed Rogan's team, I'm guessing they probably laid out some do's and don'ts about questions. And Rogan was probably told flat out he couldn't talk about the military work. For obvious reasons, this guy's into satellite stuff. Rogan knew this. He still wanted it recognized and cornered the guest with a pretty aggressive interruption. Now, this is actually a tactic that professional interviewers use, and it is very planned and meticulously thought out. And this is also very hard to get away with when you are a beginner because you don't have enough clout to do it. Unless you have more clout than the person you're interviewing, please don't try this. But as you get that clout and as you get to be able to interview people who are more and more powerful, you tend to have a little bit more power to do this kind of stuff. But again, this is a big power move, but you are going to notice how big it was because as the audio picks back up, you're going to see how much Rogan threw off this guest with that line of questioning. I guarantee it. Let's get back to it.
I was involved in some research where, together with the Italian Research Council of Bari, always south of Italy, we was testing some special processing that were able to perform something special. And so this is.
So this top secret research that you work on for the Italian government led you to try this stuff out, try this technology out. And this is satellite-based technology,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
And it's radio tomography?
Okay, so 337 in, and Rogan just pulled the chute on the setup for this guy. This guy was trying to dance around it, and Rogan basically just laid out the next minute or so of audio. You will notice, though, Rogan didn't just go, so what's with this technology? Filippo was being rather intentionally vague, and Rogan stuffed him in his locker and basically said, out with it. And he did that by knowing what the technology was, or at least the bare minimum, so he could direct this conversation. Now, there is a rule of interviewing that says, never ask a question that you do not know the answer to. And Joe just gave a masterclass in asking a question while at the same time fleshing out information quicker so the guest can't just dance around. Get to the point. Remember, most people aren't used to being interviewed, especially scientists. Sure, they get interviewed a lot, but not enough to really get good at it. And like everyone else, they get lost in their heads and their words. A good host knows this and is literally leading the conversation where he wants to go, like you would a horse with a bridle. Okay, moving on.
Yes, it is something, in my personal opinion, very simple. The radar is installed on board on the satellite. The satellite flies in the space at a distance of 600 kilometers at 7 kilometers per second in velocity. So while it flies along the orbit, it is able to catch snapshots of the Earth. The snapshots has to be focused, and this focusing procedure, let's say it in the azimuth, I take it easy, in the azimuth direction, is done by sound, by the processing of sound, because it is involved at the so-called Doppler frequency. You know, Joe, when you hear noises that are approaching to you, this noise will raise the frequency because the target has a velocity, a positive velocity with respect to you. And so the frequency is raised up.
Okay, I'm just going to say, listening to this guy talk makes you feel a lot of appreciation for people like Neil deGrasse Tyson, who has spent his life in front of the media and actually has learned how to dictate information to you without making you go, what? And this guy is struggling with that. So let's see if he can be reeled in by Joe.
And this procedure allow us to estimate or to grab, let's say, the vibration information that is always present at the surface of the Earth in terms of evanescent waves that are present on the surface of the Earth. So this vibration, which is mechanical vibration, carries inside of this the information that is located underground. And so we did this.
And was it a specific idea? Was it the idea specifically to look under the pyramids, or was this something that was discovered accidentally?
Okay, so 523 in, and that was a huge word salad, as I was saying before. Some of it due to the technology not being simplistic for everyone, and that's fine. But there was a lot lost in translation there as well. Now, this is something as a host you can really get caught up in, and it might make you try to help your audience understand it all. Joe took the other road, though. He skipped over it because he recognized in the long run, everything that guy just said doesn't matter how they do it, or they just can do it. So Joe literally went with the next thing on his prep, basically asking, was this an accident or was it planned? So let's see where this one goes.
Okay, yes. Once we discovered this method, it was a coincidence that I knew Corrado Malanga. At that time, we are in 2018. He was studying the pyramids, and so we were talking about something that if there was some methods able to scan inside the pyramids, because he needed some information to conclude the research that he was doing. And so I proposed him to use my technique, and we started to work together, and so we focused in that time on the pyramids.
Wow, okay, so that question was way more pointed than I thought. This was Joe's way of connecting the process to how they began using it on the pyramids. Essentially, Filippo knew someone that wanted to scan inside the pyramids, and Filippo said, hey, I know a way. This, again, another decent way of walking a guest through a conversation that you're leading, they're not.
And when was this? When was the first scans?
Yes, in 2019.
In 2019.
Yeah.
And when you got the data back, did you immediately get the data that you're showing today, where you see the columns with the coils around it?
Okay. Let's say that this research can be divided by two. The first one, 1.0, we were concentrating research on the Khnum Khufu pyramid, the Cheops pyramid, to watch inside the pyramid. And so we have tailored our processing to watch only inside the pyramids, because that pyramid, only one pyramid, because we were doing that kind of research. Then once we discovered things in 2020, we published a peer review paper, and we gave public the results that we found inside the Knum Khufu pyramid. We decided to expand our research in all the Giza plateau.
Okay, so basically what he just said was they already knew what the Khufu pyramid had in it. So when they scanned it, they found that they actually found what was in the pyramid. So they were able to show that the process they were using of scanning actually worked because they knew what was in the Khufu pyramid. So, and this would lead to, I'm guessing, them scanning more.
Can I stop you there? When you looked into, so we know quite a bit about the Khufu pyramid and what the chambers are inside of it. Did this technology accurately describe the pyramid itself and the insides of it, the chambers that we know exist?
Absolutely yes, because we have detected this multi-layer structure that is inside the Knum Khufu pyramid, the so-called Z. We have discovered it very well from the space, and it is located inside the pyramid. And
so basically just what I was saying, but what Joe did was Joe brought him back to kind of flesh that out. Okay, so you're saying you did that. Was it exact? And he kind of filled in the little empty portions that maybe the listener might not have picked up on. That was actually very well done.
But they knew, we discovered it. We gave an image also of the other known structures, like the Grand Gallery.
The Grand Gallery.
The Grand Gallery. And then also the Queen's Chamber and the King's Chamber also. So,
and accurate in terms of size and dimension.
And also position and location.
Okay. So when did you decide to focus below the pyramid?
Yes. We decided to focus below the pyramid because our intention was to expand our research. And then also thanks to the third component of the research group, which is Armando May, he suggests us to expand our research and scan.
So this is interesting. So all of this setup, we are 8 minutes and 49 seconds in. All of this setup has been leading to this moment where they start talking about the actual focus of what this episode is and what is under the pyramids. But in order to get there, they had to go through this very unique style of, okay, what do you do? How do you do it? Can you prove that it's accurate? Which he just talked about, making sure that, that they were able to find the king's chamber and the queen's chamber and everything was accurate. All the measurements were accurate before they get into the controversial part about what is under the pyramids. This setup could have taken so much longer, but Joe was able to get him to that point, leading him, asking pointed questions and getting them there. And we're only 8 minutes in and we're actually at the meat. We are now talking about the controversial stuff, which is where this episode's really going to take off. There hasn't been any empty stuff. I would say actually the guest has had a little bit more emptiness than the host has had. The host has actually kept it on point the whole time, and that's really important. Now, outside of some of the content being niche, this is just a masterclass in how to interview. Most importantly, though, here is the storytelling. Now, when you're an interviewer, you are not in control of the story, but you need to be. This is also relevant for podcasts that are multi-person podcasts as well. The narration and the dialogue of the story is the most important. And that's exactly the kind of host you need to be to make sure the right story is being told. Even if they're your buddies telling the story, you need to be the one that keeps everybody on track. And you're going to notice with a lot of these critiques, it all ends with prep, and prep is work. Being prepared allows you to do all of this and allows you to do it successfully, because there's no such thing as a successful podcast that is lazy. Let me know what you thought about everything here today, though. And are there any other big podcasts like Joe Rogan that you want me to break down, you want me to do this same treatment to? Hit me up down below. Also, we do have more Podcast 911 on the way. Cheers, guys, and thanks for watching.